My dad gave my 200 inheritance to his new wife at their anniversary, so I fought back and took everything I could. My dad stood up at his anniversary dinner and handed my 200 inheritance me dead mom's house to his new wife, Linda, while a crowd cheered like it was a damn prize. I was there, choking on my beer, when he said it's hers now, erasing years of promises in front of everyone. That house was my future, my mom's blood and sweat, and he gave it to a woman he's known for 2 years without even telling me. I lost it right there, and they didn't care. Let me back up. My name's Ryan, I'm 24, and I grew up in Asheville, North Carolina, in a little 2-bedroom ranch with peeling paint and a roof that leaked every spring. It wasn't much, but it was home paid off after my parents worked their asses off for decades. Mom and Dad raised me their backyard football games, late nights fixing the porch swing, her teaching me to cook in that tiny kitchen. 5 years ago, when I was 19, Mom got sick cancer and it took her fast. Dad broke after that, drowning in whiskey and silence. I thought we'd hold each other up. I couldn't have been more wrong. The house was worth about 200 when she died. Mom always said it'd be mine. Ryan, she'd say, sitting on the porch with her coffee, this is your safety net. Your dad and I busted our tails so you'd have something real. Dad repeated at dinners where he'd slap my back and say, that's your inheritance, kid. We're not loaded, but it's yours. I clung to that after she was gone, like it was the last piece of her I had. Turns out, promises don't mean shit when someone new walks in. Dad met Linda 2 years after Mom passed. She was a waitress at a diner. He started hitting every morning blonde, loud, 10 years younger than him, with a laugh that set my teeth on edge. I didn't trust her from the start, but I kept my mouth shut. He'd been a ghost since Mom died, and if Linda pulled him out of that hole, I'd stomach it. They got hitched 6 months later courthouse, quick and dirty, me and her sister as witnesses. I figured she'd just be there, not take everything I had left. By then, I'd moved out, renting a cheap apartment near downtown Asheville. I worked construction hauling lumber, pouring concrete, and took night classes at the community college, chasing a business degree. The plan was simple. Save up, finish school, maybe flip the house someday if I needed cash. Dad and Linda stayed in it, and I didn't fight it. Too many ghosts of Mom lingered in those walls for me to live there yet. He'd call me up, Ryan, swing by for dinner, Linda's cooking. I'd go, choke down her overcooked meatloaf, and listen to him talk about patching the roof or painting the siding. It felt almost normal until last month. It was their first anniversary. Dad and Linda said she made it a spectacle. He'd been with Mom for 25 years, so I guess this was his big redo. Linda set up a dinner at the house, our house, inviting her family, some neighbors, and me. I rolled in after a long day on a job site, dust on my boots, figuring I'd grab a beer and coast through. The backyard was lit up, string lights in the trees, a folding table with a red checkered cloth, a cooler stuffed with Bud Light. Linda's brother, Greg, was at the grill, flipping burgers, while her mom messed with a tray of deviled eggs. Dad stood by the back door, drink in hand, looking happier than he had in years. I grabbed a beer and sank into a lawn chair, trading small talk with Greg about the Panthers' last game. The crowd was small, 20 people, maybe, but it had a good buzz. I even thought, for a dumb second, that Linda might not be so bad. Then Dad tapped his glass with a spoon, calling everyone over. Got an announcement, he said, his voice rough but steady. Linda slid up next to him, arm hooked through his, grinning like a shark. Linda and I've been talking, he said, and we're starting fresh. This house has been in the family forever, but it's time for a new chapter. Last week, I signed it over to her. It's hers now, free and clear. The backyard went dead quiet, just crickets and the hiss of the grill. My beer slipped in my hand, cold and slick. I stared at him, brain scrambling for a punchline, but he just stood there, smiling like an idiot. Linda squeezed his arm, cooing, "It's such a gift, hon. I'm so grateful." People clapped. Greg whooped. Her mom dabbed her eyes with a napkin, but I couldn't move. 200. My mom's house. My inheritance. Gone. I shot up, chair scraping the grass, my voice booming before I could stop it. What the hell? You signed it over to her? Dad's smile vanished, his brows knitting. Ryan, cool it. We'll talk later. No, we're talking now, I said, stepping closer. Heads turned. Greg froze mid-flip. Linda's mom gawked. That house was mine. Mom said it. You said it. Years of it's your inheritance. What is this? Linda cut in. sharp and pissed. Ryan, this isn't about you. It's our home now, mine and your dad's. You're young. You'll make your own way. Our home? I laughed, raw and bitter. That's my mom's house. She worked herself to death for it, every payment, every nail. You've been here 2 years, and you get it? Dad stepped up, face red. That's enough, Ryan. This is my call. I can do what I want with my property. Your property? I snapped, chest tight. You told me it was mine and me safety net. Ryan, it's yours when we're gone, you said, 100 times. Were you lying then or now? People shifted, Greg muttered to his wife. Neighbors edged away. Linda crossed her arms, glaring. You're being selfish, Ryan. We're building something new and you're trashing it. Selfish? I turned to the crowd, voice shaking with fury. They just gave my mom's house my 200-0 inheritance to a woman who's been here 5 minutes. Promised to me since I was a kid, and I find out like this. Who's selfish? Dad closed in, jaw clenched. Lower your voice. This is a celebration, not a damn fight. It's her celebration, I said, pointing at Linda. Not mine. You screwed me, Dad, and didn't even warn me. Linda huffed, storming inside. I'm done with this. Dad followed, barking. You're out of line, Ryan. The crowd split, some trailed them. Others pretended to check their phones. I stood there, beer warm in my hand, head spinning. I didn't stay. I tossed the bottle, grabbed my keys, and peeled out. Driving home, Mom's voice, your safety net, clashed with Dad's, it's hers now. By the time I hit my apartment, I was shaking, not just mad, but ready. They thought they could erase me. They had no idea what I'd bring. 2 weeks later, Greg called. Your dad's upset, man, he said, cautious. Linda's a mess. They want you to come by, work it out. Work it out? I gripped the phone, staring at the dark street. They stole from me. If they want to talk, they better have answers. He sighed. Just think about it. I hung up, already pulling files, Mom's will, Dad's promises, anything to fight back. They were in deep now. 2 weeks after my dad dropped the bomb that he'd given my 200-0 inheritance me mom's house to his new wife Linda, I walked into their place, ready to burn it all down. I'd spent those weeks stewing, replaying that backyard announcement where he handed her my future while people clapped like it was a game show win. He didn't just betray me, he did it in front of everyone, and I wasn't letting it slide. I had a folder stuffed with proof texts, emails, Mom's old will, and I was done playing the good son. The living room hit me like a time warp when I stepped in. Same faded couch Mom picked out, same coffee table with my childhood doodles scratched into it. Dad sat there, hunched over a beer, looking worn out. Linda perched on the armrest, arms crossed, her blonde hair pulled tight like she was bracing for a fight. The air was thick, heavy with unspoken crap, and I could feel my pulse hammering in my neck. Dad spoke first, voice low. Ryan, glad you came. Let's keep this calm, okay? We're still family. Calm? I slammed the folder on the table, the thud bouncing off the walls. You gave away my mom's house, my inheritance to her, and you want calm? You don't get to play that card. Linda's eyes narrowed, her voice sharp. This isn't your house, Ryan. It's ours, mine, and your dad's. You need to accept that. I laughed, cold and jagged. Accept it? You've been here 2 years, Linda. Mom spent 25 pouring her life into this place. Every payment, every fix. You think you deserve it more than me? Dad shifted, setting his beer down. Ryan, I made a choice. It's my property. I can do what I want. You're young. You'll build your own. Your property? I cut him off, flipping the folder open. Here's Mom's will dated 3 years before she died. Says the house goes to me if you pass or remarry. You told me the same thing, text from 2022. Ryan, it's your safety net. Emails from last year, house is yours, kid. You gonna deny that? He grabbed the will, his hands shaking as he skimmed it. His face went pale, but Linda snatched it from him, tossing it back on the table. That's old news, she snapped. He signed it to me last month. Legally, it's mine. You've got nothing. Nothing? I pulled out a text chain, holding it up. Here's Dad, 6 months ago. Don't worry, Ryan, the house is still yours. 6 months? You were lying to my face while you planned this? Dad rubbed his temples, voice cracking. Things changed, Ryan. Linda and I needed a fresh start. You're doing fine construction, school. You don't need this. Don't need it? My voice rose, shaking the room. I'm busting my ass, 15 an hour hauling lumber, living in a shithole apartment because I trusted you. I was counting on that house to finish my degree, maybe start something real. You screwed me, and you're acting like it's no big deal." Linda stood, stepping closer. "You're a grown man, Ryan. Stop whining, we're not your bank. I'm his wife now, and this is our life." That lit the fuse. "His wife? You're a gold digger who saw a grieving man and pounced. Mom's barely cold, and you're stealing her legacy. You don't give a damn about me or him." "Enough!" Dad shot up, slamming his hand on the table. "You don't talk to her like that. This is my house, my call end of story." Then the doorbell rang, and shit hit the fan. Linda's brother, Greg, walked in with his wife, Tara, apparently. Dad had invited them to mediate. Perfect timing. They froze in the doorway, taking in the scene. Me towering over the table, papers everywhere. Linda glaring, Dad red-faced and yelling. "What's going on?" Greg asked, his voice cautious. I didn't hold back. "Dad gave Linda my 200 inheritance, Mom's house behind my back, announced it at their anniversary like a damn gift. I've got proof it was mine, and they're acting like I'm the bad guy." Tara's jaw dropped. "Jesus, Mike, you told us that house was Ryan's. What the hell?" Linda spun on her, furious. "Stay out of this, Tara. It's our business, our home." "Our home?" I shouted, loud enough for the neighbors to hear. "It's my mom's blood in those walls. You've got no right to it, none. And you—" I turned to Dad. "You lied to everyone here, not just me." Greg stepped in, hands up. "Whoa, Mike, this is messed up. You can't just—" "Shut up, Greg," Linda snapped, cutting him off. "He's throwing a tantrum because he didn't get his way." "A tantrum?" I grabbed the will, waving it. "This says it's mine. You signed it over without a word, screwed me in front of the whole family. You think I'm letting that slide?" The room exploded. Tara started yelling at Linda. "You don't get to rewrite his life." Greg tried to calm Dad, who was shouting, "I'm not undoing it." Linda lunged for the folder, trying to rip the papers, yanked it back, staring her down. "Touch it, and you'll regret it," I said, voice low and hard. She froze, eyes wide. Dad grabbed my arm, pulling me toward the door. "Get out, Ryan. You're not welcome here if you can't respect this." I shook him off, turning to Greg and Tara. "They think they can bury this. I've got everything, proof, dates, signatures. They're not getting away with it." Tara nodded, her face tight. "This ain't right, Mike. You know it." I stormed out, folder in hand, their voices echoing behind me, Linda screaming, Dad cursing, Greg trying to play peacemaker. Driving home, my hands shook on the wheel, adrenaline pumping. It wasn't just the house anymore. It was the lies, the disrespect, the way they thought I'd roll over. They wanted a public mess? I'd give them one they'd never forget. A month after I stormed out of Dad's house, leaving Linda and him scrambling over my threats, I was done waiting for them to come clean. They thought I'd back down after that blowout. Dad left a voicemail saying, "Ryan, let's talk." And Linda texted some bullshit about moving on. I didn't reply. Instead, I dug deeper, fueled by every lie they'd fed me about that 200 house, my mom's legacy now, in Linda's name. They'd made it public. I'd make it hurt. I started with the legal stuff. Mom's will was clear house to me if Dad remarried or died, but he'd owned it outright after she passed, so he could sign it away. Still, those promises stacks, emails, years of "it's yours," Ryan had weight. I called a buddy, Matt, who'd just passed the bar in Asheville. Over beers at a dive bar off Patton Avenue, I laid it out. The will, the messages, the deed transfer. "Can I fight this?" I asked, sliding the folder across the table. Matt skimmed it, frowning. "It's tricky, man. Legally, he can transfer Itha's name, his call. But these promises? That's a verbal contract. If you've got enough proof, we could argue fraud or undue influence, Linda pushing him. It's a long shot, but it might scare them into settling." "Scare them's all I need," I said, leaning back. "What's next?" "Get more," he said. "Bank stuff, witnesses, anything showing they planned this. Then we send a letter rattle them." I hit the ground running. Mom's will was filed at the county clerk's office. I got a certified copy. The deed transferred to Linda was public record, dated 3 weeks before the anniversary dinner, proving they'd schemed it early. I even tracked down an old email from Dad to my uncle, saying, "House stays with Ryan, no matter what." That was gold. I wasn't just mad, I was armed. Next, I called Aunt Karen, Mom's sister in Charlotte. She'd been at the anniversary dinner, quiet but watching. "Ryan," she said when I got her on the phone, I couldn't believe it when he said that. Your mom would have lost her mind. Did he ever tell you it was mine? I asked, pacing my apartment. Every time I saw him, she said. Last Christmas, he said, Karen, that house is Ryan's future. Linda wasn't around then, he changed after she showed up. That was it. I had a witness. Will you back me up? I asked. Damn right, she said. This ain't fair. I set up a showdown. Told Karen to invite Dad, Linda, and a few family members to her place in Charlotte for a talk. Framed it as a chance to clear the air. Dad bought it, probably thinking I'd soften. He had no clue. Saturday night, I pulled into Karen's driveway, folder in hand. Her dining room was packed her, Uncle Dave, Dad, Linda, and Greg, who tagged along. The table had lasagna and garlic bread, but no one was eating. Dad sat at the head, Linda next to him, her face tight. I stood by the door, letting the silence stretch. Karen broke it. Ryan's got something to say. Let him talk. I stepped forward, voice steady. You gave Linda my 200 inheritance mom's house behind my back. Announced it like a prize while I stood there like an idiot. I've got proof it was mine, and you're not talking your way out. Linda rolled her eyes. This again? It's done. Ryan legally mine. Move on. Done? I opened the folder, tossing the will on the table. Mom's will house to me if you remarry. You agreed here's you, Dad, texting me last year. It's yours, Ryan. Email to Uncle Dave. House stays with Ryan. You lied for years. Dad's face went white, hands gripping the table. Ryan, I didn't mean. Didn't mean what? I cut him off, pulling the deed. You transferred it 3 weeks before that dinner planned it while lying to me. Here's Aunt Corinthi, heard you say it's mine last Christmas. Greg saw you promise it at my graduation. You screwed me, and everyone knows. Greg shifted, uneasy. Mike, you did say that years back. Linda slammed her hand down. This is bullshit. It's my house signed, sealed, done. Signed? I laughed, hard. I've got a lawyer. This, I tapped the papers, is fraud. Verbal contract, broken promises, maybe Linda twisting your arm. I can sue, drag you through court, tank your precious fresh start. Dad stood, voice shaking. You'd sue me? Your own father? You stole from me, I said, staring him down. My mom's house, 200 she died for. You picked her over me. Yeah, I'd sue. The room blew up. Karen yelled at Dad. You can't do this to her memory. Linda screamed. He's lying. He's got nothing. Greg tried to play peacemaker. Let's all chill. But Uncle Dave backed me. Mike, this is low. Linda lunged for the folder. I yanked it back, glaring. Try it, I said, voice ice cold. She backed off, fuming. Dad grabbed my shoulder. You're tearing us apart, Ryan. I shook him off. You did that when you signed that deed. I turned to Karen. They think I'm bluffing. I'm not. She nodded, furious. I'm with you, Ryan. This is wrong. I walked out, papers in hand, their shouts fading. I'd flipped the script. They weren't in control anymore. 3 months after I turned my family's world upside down at Aunt Karen's, threatening to sue over the 200 house my dad handed to his new wife, Linda, I stood there with a check in my hand, victory, but it felt like swallowing glass. They'd laughed it off at first. Linda sneered. I was pathetic in a voicemail. Dad begged, don't do this, son, in a text. But when my lawyer's demand letter hit, citing fraud and broken promises, they folded. By June, I had 150 Dad cashed out stocks. Linda sold her gaudy rings. It wasn't the full house, but it was blood money I'd earned. The fight started back at their anniversary dinner when Dad announced he'd signed my mom's house-me inheritance over to Linda, like it was some grand prize, while a backyard full of idiots clapped. That betrayal wasn't just a slap, it was a gut punch. Years of, Ryan, it's yours, evaporating in front of everyone. I'd spent the last 3 months building my case, Mom's will, texts, emails, witnesses, and when I laid it out at Karen's, they couldn't dodge the truth. Now, with the check, I'd won, but the cost was steep. I cut them off cold after that. No calls, no texts, no pretending we could stitch this back together. Dad tried a weak email. Ryan, we're sorry. Let's talk. But I trashed it unread. Linda posted some sanctimonious garbage on Facebook. Family forgives, even when it's hard, and I blocked her ass without a second thought. Karen, Mom's sister, kept me in the loop. Dad was spiraling, hitting the bottle again, while Linda played martyr to anyone who'd listen. I didn't give a damn. They'd made their choice, and I wasn't their doormat anymore. That 150 became my lifeline. I quit hauling lumber for $15 an hour and enrolled full-time at UNC Asheville Business Degree. No more night classes squeezed between shifts. Took a part-time gig at a hardware store less pay, more hours to study. My apartment off Marymount Avenue was a shithole, creaky floors. A faucet that dripped like a metronome, but it was mine, free of Dad's lies. I lived leanerman, black coffee, late nights with textbooks, but it was honest. For the first time, I wasn't leaning on anyone but me. Linda tried crawling back once, about 2 months after the check cleared. My phone buzzed with a text while I was grabbing coffee between classes. "Ryan, this is ridiculous. You got your money, why keep punishing us? We're still family." I read it, standing there in the campus quad, and laughed, short, bitter, loud enough that a couple freshmen glanced over. Then I deleted it. Family doesn't stab you in the back and call it a hug. She got nothing from Minnow reply, no mercy. Dad made his move at Christmas, the final nail. Karen invited me to her place in Charlotte, Uncle Dave, a few cousins, no Dad or Linda on the guest list. I was carving turkey in her kitchen, the smell of sage and gravy thick in the air, when the doorbell rang. Karen answered, and I heard him, "Dad," voice slurred, heavy with booze. "Karen, I gotta see him, please." She tried blocking him, but he shoved past, stumbling into the dining room, eyes red and wet, stinking like a distillery. "Ryan," he croaked, lurching toward me. "We fucked up. I'm sorry, Linda's sorry. Can't we fix this?" I set the carving knife down, slow and deliberate, and faced him. "You're sorry you got caught," I said, voice flat, cold. "Not sorry you did it." He flinched like I'd hit him, swaying on his feet. I thought I was giving her something as something new. "You're tough, Ryan. You didn't need it." "Didn't need it?" I stepped closer, hands clenched at my sides. "That was Mom's house. 200 she broke her back for. You promised it to me years of, 'It's yours.' Kid then gave it to a woman you've known 5 minutes. You don't get to cry about it now." Karen moved in, her voice sharp. "Mike, get out. He's done with you." Dad grabbed my arm, fingers digging in. "You're my son. I can't lose you over this." "You lost me the second you signed that deed," I said, yanking free. "You picked her over me, over Mom's memory. Get the hell out." He stood there, wobbling, eyes glassy, then muttered, "You're just like her," before turning away. I didn't know if he meant Mom or Linda, and it didn't matter. Karen shoved him out, slamming the door, and I went back to the turkey, slicing through it like nothing happened. The room stayed quiet. Dave poured me a beer. Karen squeezed my shoulder, but it felt final, like a weightlifting. I've replayed it since. Could I have sat them down, hashed it out, kept some shred of family? But every time I see Dad's smug grin at that dinner, Linda's arm locked on his, the crowd cheering while my future vanished. They chose this war, not me. I fought, clawed back what I could, and walked away with my head up. Was it worth it? Hell yes. I've got my life, now no strings, no bullshit, just me and what I build. What would you do if they took everything you were promised? Update. 1 month later. Karen called me a few weeks back. Linda's strutting around Asheville in a new SUV, acting like she's still queen, while Dad's a wreck, selling off his old fishing gear to cover bills. Guess that fresh start ain't so fresh. Update. 6 months later. Dad emailed last week, asking to meet at some diner off I-40. I didn't bother replying. Uncle Dave says they're drowning in debt now, house payments piling up since Dad tapped his stocks. Karma's slow, but it hits. Update. 1 year later. I'm crushing my second semester at UNC Asheville, straight A's. New internship lined up. Karen says Linda's back in Asheville, broke, crashing with Dad after some screaming match. They don't bring me up anymore. I'm out for good, no looking back.